Legends of the War here, and today we're doing a Rating Your One Woman Doom stack covering Valkia the Bloody. This one's been sent in by Master Chow, so thanks for sending that in. We'll have a look at her equipment, look at her stats, and then send her into battle here. So, she's got the Bane Spear, which gives her lots of melee attack, armor piercing damage, the Bane Spear ability, which is good for taking out blobs, and Unbreakable, which is good because she's a flying single entity with no army here, so that way we're not taking leadership penalties. And since she's ascended to Demonhood, that all the downside of being a demon, you know, decaying and stuff like that when you got low leadership, that can't happen. So she's that's a good weapon to have. The other option is usually the Sword of Cain because of the ward save that provides. Especially now, considering in Warhammer 3, magic resistance can't be blocked by anything other than ward save, whereas in Warhammer 2 you could just use magic resistance. So you didn't even need ward save, you just added on physical resistance and magic resistance, and then boom, you got your ward save essentially, but that doesn't happen anymore. So you got to watch out for enemies with magical attacks, unless you've got a lot of ward save. She got the Scarlet Armor here, which, looking at it, it does reduce the weapon strength of those around her, but I kind of think that maybe it might have been better to pick up an Armor of Destiny or a Trickster's Helm, because both of them provide a lot of ward save, more ward save than this, but it's not like this is bad. You got the Talisman of Preservation here, which is good, and then the Demon Shield. Now the ability Demon Shield allows her to become invulnerable for 13 seconds, so we can use that as an opportunity to try to duel Lewin Leoncoeur and you know, get him out of the fight as quickly as possible, because he's the only one that was really going to do any significant damage, because as far as I can tell here, he's the only one with magical attacks, unless there's a... Okay, there is a Knight of the Lionhearted there, but we might be able to just Bane Spear that away. And then it provides her with melee defense. So looking at her resistances, this is usually what I go for, because this is what makes the best one-man Doom stacks, or one-woman Doom stacks, is having super high resistances. 21% ward save, 45% physical resistance, so what's that, 66% physical resistance. And then spell resistance doesn't matter, they're not casting a spell. Spell resistance is garbage on single entities. Yeah, so yeah, the magical attacks isn't going to be blocked that much. She does have Gore Feast, which allows her to heal, so any damage that he does end up doing to her, she'll probably heal while fighting them. Anyway, let's just jump in here and see what we can do. So she got the Banner of Rage, but we've got other banners here. I think that's the right one to pick. Let's jump in and see what she can do. So it's been a while since we've covered a one-person Doom stack. And what we're going up here is definitely not of the strongest we've ever seen. You know, in Warhammer 2, we had one-man Doom stacks going up against 4 full stacks. But we got to keep in mind as well that the magic resistance nerf will make it harder for any of those, you know, 10 out of 10s in Warhammer 2 to deliver the same amount of damage in Warhammer 3, especially with the Winds of Magic nerfs. A lot of those spellcasters that had, you know, 60% magic resistance and the Sword of Cain, they're just not going to be able to resist as much damage against magical weapons. And I'm not going to rate anything particularly highly if it can't deal with magical weapons, because most legendary lords will have magical attacks, and that's going to be the most deadly thing for you. Alright, so first thing we're going to do here, just try and take out Lewin Leoncoeur as quickly as possible. Don't pop this down until he's actually engaged in melee.
Crush them underfoot.
Okay, just wait. Okay, there we go.
Me blood.
Oh, we shouldn't have done that. Right, then he can't hit her now anyway. And just try and take him out as quickly as possible. So I wanted to get hit first, that way she's regenerating. Because I knew she wouldn't be able to beat him in 13 seconds. Bane Spear underneath them. Which, that rocks up a ton of damage, that one. Lewin Leoncoeur is like, not even fighting properly there. Now, another thing that makes good one-person Doom stacks is how big they are. Typically speaking, the bigger they are, the worse they are, because it makes it a lot easier for multiple entities to get engaged in melee or to be shot by them. Okay, Lewin Leoncoeur's down, and now she lands.
It It's my will.
So this is where we've actually never covered like a Kolek Sun Eater one-man Doomstack. Although I've seen what its potential for him to do now. So maybe we'll cover him at some point. But Kolek being just so goddamn big has always worked against him. Even if he can get really high ward save.
Fury of corn.
So, just looking at her health in terms of how she's regenerating, in terms of how often she's getting attacked, they're not landing any hits on her. She's got such high melee defense. I'm curious to see what traits he's gone and picked up, because that's been really important for making one-man Doomstacks. And I'm fairly sure the cap is still at 10 for Legendary Lord defeat traits. I've never seen anyone get more than 10. Yeah, just about now, whatever. But yeah, it's the Bane Spear that we really want for killing them all off. It's got super high weapon strength, but it's just wasted on chaff. Absolutely wasted. Don't really need that. Yeah, it's definitely the Bane Spear that does it, with doing 2,000 damage a tick there. And then of course we've got these abilities here. No point giving her extra melee attack, just pop down for Blade of Corn. Surprised me in the trailer here a little bit. But at the same time, if she's down on the ground, it's not actually a bad thing, because units that are on the ground can't take damage. Right, those Knights of the... Oh, that's a different one. Do they have magical attack? No. I should probably check what the battle difficulty is on. Yeah, okay, it's on very hard battle difficulty, that's good. Yeah, we only rate them on very hard. Still kind of recovering from the fight with Lu and Leonker. Yeah, it's back and forth a little bit. This is where those extra resistances would have come in handy. And again, it's all just about this. Get those kills in there, and then we can pop down a Blade of Corn real soon. Unit is invulnerable to damage, does not apply to summon units. Makes it seem like you can actually select the unit to put it on, but it goes on her, which she can't be summoned, so it's kind of weird that it even says that. Here we go. Good. It's good that all the AI's forces are just crowding around here, making it a lot easier. They didn't actually do that in Warhammer 2. They would only send a couple of units at a time. They wouldn't send the entire army to fight a single entity. So in many ways, the AI has definitely been dropped on its head in Warhammer 3. That looks like it's going to be pretty good. These won't count towards her kills though. But it'll help make the battle go a bit quicker. Still got 1,000 kills. The fight or die is a bit useless because, honestly, once you get to about 100 melee attack, going up against chaff, it doesn't matter anymore. There's definitely a point to where melee attack becomes just redundant. Same thing with melee defense, because there's a cap to it. What I mean by a cap to it is that if the relative melee defense to your melee attack is, if the gap is like say 70 points higher, getting any higher is not going to make any difference. You're going to hit the maximum you can. Same thing with melee defense. It doesn't increase the amount of damage you do. Did that? Oh, I see. We killed so many with the Sword of Corn that it recharged the thing straight away. Yeah, no point putting these down. She's not gonna die. I guess one advantage of picking up the Bane Spear instead of the Sword of Cain is you don't get any of those stupid drawbacks that come with the Sword of Cain. This is why the Beastmen, typically speaking, are the best faction for picking up the Sword of Cain, since none of the drawbacks actually hurt them at all. They don't have public order, nobody likes them in the first place, and they don't have upkeep costs. So all the benefits, none of the drawbacks for them. And there's the army losses. So she definitely could have taken on a lot more. She definitely could have taken on a lot more. I mean, it was mostly just garbage Bretonians, but you're getting a bit of an idea of what she could take on. You know, taking on Lu and Leoncoeur and only taking like a very small amount of damage, that's definitely good. This stuff here was almost irrelevant that it was even here. They did practically no damage to us. That was just time wasted, essentially. But anyway, let's have a look at her stats and traits and see how much effort actually went into this and how much better you could potentially make it. But yeah, the Bane Spear is definitely good for taking out absolutely shitloads of troops. And only Valkia, I think, can get it. I don't think Skarbrand can get it. You know, I'm playing a Skarbrand campaign at the moment, and I haven't been offered any of the Corn Swords. Alright, let's have a look here. None of this matters.
Blood for the Blood God!
So of course, with the game being as it is at the moment, it's hard to find 4 full stacks to go up against. Bretonia probably wasn't the strongest choice, but we got a bit of an idea of what she could take on. So, let's have a look at her traits. Who has she beaten? Okay, she's beaten Hellebrand. That's good, but not necessary. Her melee attack was fine. So that's 1. Okay, she's taken out Sigvald. That was a must. Malice, cool, didn't need to take that one out. Okay, so you took out Archaon, that's good. It's physical resistance, spell resistance, melee attack when fighting against those factions. That's pretty good. That's a good trait. Took out Throt, cool. Okay, you haven't actually taken out Wurzag. Okay. So yeah, it's definitely not perfected. Not perfected. It's good though. You got a couple of good ones. The main ones here that you've done that were really good. So you got Deep Cleaner. Troll Hunter's good as well, because you want that bonus versus large. That's really good for melee attack when dealing with like Lu and Leoncoeur. So Deep Cleaner, absolutely essential. Pride Assassin and what was it? Doomslayer. Those are the 3 really good ones. So you're missing out on Wurzag's trait. Just trying to think of some others. You don't need spell resistance anymore, so Azag's no longer critical. Things like Krokgar's trait for melee defense. Melee defense is really good for one-man Doomstacks because a lot of these lords tend to have very high melee attack, but I mean that's still very high melee defense. But I think that hasn't reached the cap yet. You can still go up against stuff that's going to have a pretty high chance of hitting. So if you had an extra 10 melee defense, any of those units would have a 10% less chance of hitting. I think it caps at... I think the absolute bottoming out is that an 8% chance of actually hitting. And you can still get 10% more physical resistance from Wurzag. You could potentially get more ward save by picking up the Sword of Cain, but I'm not going to criticize you on that one because I hate the Sword of Cain myself. So honestly, this is fine. Do you have an Armor of Destiny? Let me just see. You do. So yeah, an Armor of Destiny. You could have picked up an extra 10 physical resistance with that. Good against physical enemies. Because you already got 5% ward save there. And that would have given you an extra, essentially 5% damage resistance against magical blades. Not a huge amount, but what's the set give you? I know you're not using the set though. Okay, getting the full set's not that important for her. Right. As for enchanted weapons, I'm not sure what you could have put on there that would have made her any stronger. The Demon Shield, honestly, is pretty good because it applied invulnerability damage, essentially about 10% of the time, roughly. So that's pretty good. That essentially counts as 10% damage resistance, I guess. So that's not too bad. But yeah, definitely could be better. Now, people do seem to want number ratings with these. It's pretty good. I can see that it has a lot of potential. It's not perfected, so it could get stronger, and that wasn't exactly the toughest of opponents. The only one in there that was any real threat was Lu and Leoncoeur. I also understand that it's harder to track down 4 full stacks in Warhammer 3 currently, unless you go up against an endgame crisis. So maybe going up against something like the Vampire Counts endgame crisis or Wood Elf endgame crisis, that would have been a little bit more of a test. But I can see that she could have taken on a fair bit. I'm probably leaning towards something along the lines of like an 8 out of 10 with this. Because I know that it's for one thing, she's not perfected. And I know that there are other one-man Doomstacks out there that are just simply better than this. Can kill enemies faster, can take less damage, and take on more enemies. So I think potentially you could get her up to a 9 out of 10 if you had gotten those traits. Here are the specific ones that you need to get if you want to get a 9 out of 10. I think that's her sort of maximum potential. You need to get Wurzag's defeat trait, you need to get Krokgar's defeat trait, and probably Nakai. But of course, going around the world trying to find them, they're all in different locations, can be quite a pain in the ass. There are some other ones out there that can provide a little bit of bonuses, but those are the big ones, I think, because they provide big bonuses to melee defense and big bonuses to resistance. And those are the things that provide the best stats for one-man Doomstacks, because you give them more time on the battlefield before they get worn out. Anyway, that's the end of this one here, guys. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this one-woman Doomstack. Big thanks once again to Master Chow for sending this in. I also do recognize that I do gravitate very often towards rating things 8 out of 10. There's something about the number 8 that I seem to just always gravitate towards. Maybe I am actually corrupted by Khorne. I don't know. Anyway, that's the end of this one here. Appreciate you guys, and I'll see you next time, fuckers. Bye.